All right, fifth graders, welcome to Inferential Thinking, day two. PowerPoint number two, or video number two. I guess you really don't see it as a PowerPoint, you see it more as a video. Today's learning targets: you will make inferences using what you see in pictures and read in text. You will use clues or evidence in the text to make inferences. You will visualize to understand a text, and you will use academic sentence frames to discuss strategies. And the strategies we're going to be working with today are making inferences and visualizing. So two things that we touched on yesterday, and we're going to continue today. Just a reminder, what we started with yesterday. Inferential thinking is adding up clues within the text with personal knowledge to understand what is not being said. Remember that a writer doesn't always tell you everything. They don't give you everything that you need to know. Sometimes they require you as a reader to do some thinking. And what they want you to do is combine what they're giving you in the book with your background knowledge, things you've seen, things you've read, things you've learned, to create a better understanding. Okay? Good readers are doing this all the time, and they make inferences when they are reading both fiction and non-fiction text. Okay? Yesterday we introduced some inference sentence frames, which is just a way to begin our discussion about inferencing. And as we become more comfortable, we'll be using these less and less possibly, but it's also something that you can use all the time. And we start off with, well, my inference is, and the clues that help me make this inference are, and then finally visualizing something helped me make my inference. Now, today we're going to start looking at an excerpt from the book Treasure Island. And I'll read it to you. The red glare of the torch, lighting up the interior of the blockhouse, showed me the worst of my apprehensions realized. The pirates were in possession of the house and stores. There was the cask of cognac. There were the pork and bread as before, and what tenfold increased my horror, not a sign of any prisoner. I could only judge that all had perished, and my heart smote me sorely that I had not been there to perish with them. There were 6 of the buccaneers, pirates all told. Not another man was left alive. The parrot sat, preening her plumage, on Long John's shoulder. So, he said, here's Jim Hawkins. Shiver me timbers. Dropped in like, eh? Well, come. I take that friendly. Now, yesterday when I looked at how does she feel, the two pictures of the girls, I visualized what events might have caused the girl's feelings to help me understand. The girl who was happy, I envisioned her doing well on a test. And the girl who was crying, I envisioned her getting bad news about her dog. Okay? So I visualized that to help me understand how they were feeling. Another way I can visualize is to imagine what people or places are like based on an author's description. I'll show you how to do that. So we'll read the first paragraph again. The red glare of the torch, lighting up the interior of the blockhouse, showed me the worst of my apprehensions realized. The pirates were in possession of the house and stores. There was the cask of cognac. There were the pork and bread, as before, and what tenfold increased my horror, not a sign of any prisoner. I can only judge that all had perished, and my heart smote me sorely that I had not been there to perish with them. In this paragraph, the narrator describes what he sees when he uses a torch to light up the blockhouse. The author uses vivid details such as the red glare of the torch and the cask of cognac to help me visualize the scene. The details help me imagine how the narrator feels. Visualizing the scene helps me understand the narrator's horror and guilt. Now, when we look at the second paragraph, there were 6 of the buccaneers all told. Not another man was left alive. The parrot sat, preening her plumage, on Long John's shoulder. So, said he, here's Jim Hawkins. Shiver me timbers. Dropped in like, eh? Well, come. I take that friendly. This paragraph helps me visualize another character, Long John Silver. Now, in the classic pirate fashion. He has a parrot on his shoulder, which, most people walk around with a parrot on his shoulder, don't they? And he greets the narrator, "Shiver me timbers." These details help me paint a picture of the character Long John Silver in my mind. And the only thing really missing, he's just not saying "arr" all the time, which would make it real much better. All right? Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like to think about what the author wants readers to know, but didn't write. What clues help you make inferences about the narrator and the blockhouse? What I'd like you to do is think about an inference you can make, and then what clue or clues help you, and fill in this section right here. I want you to pause the video and complete that first box with your inference and clues. And the clue or clues that you used. When you're done, restart the video and check and see how yours compares to mine. All right, fifth graders, hopefully you have your inference down. And for me, my inference is that the narrator has been in this house before. He recognizes the pork and bread, okay? And the clues that I use to help me make this inference is that there were the pork and bread as before. So it seems like he has seen the pork and bread at some point in time before in this house. So they must have been in the same place or something like that. Okay? And the next inference we'd like you to make is kind of in this, for this one here. What inference can you make about the narrator's relationship with the prisoners, okay? And then, how does he feel about them? So why don't you take time and write down your inference and any clue you might use, and then so pause the video and then restart when you are done. All right, fifth graders. My inference concerning the narrator and his relationship with the prisoners is that the narrator cared about the people who were murdered, and he felt guilty for surviving. And the clue that I used that really helped this was when he wrote, "And my heart smote me sorely that I had not been there to perish with them," which means that he wanted to die too, and he feels bad that he's still alive. Another thing that we could talk about is that showed me the worst of my apprehensions realized. Not a sign, and what tenfold increased my horror, not a sign of any prisoner. So you could tell he was really bothered that the prisoners weren't there and the prisoners weren't alive. Well, and he could only judge that they had all perished. So maybe they were all just hanging out on the island or something somewhere else. But generally, if you know about pirates, and that most of them had probably been killed. Okay, and then the final inference I'd like you to make is what about the narrator and his relationship with Long John Silver? What can we infer about their relationship? Why don't you take some time and fill out your inference here, and then fill out any clue or clues that you might have used to kind of figure that out. And pause the video, and then when you're done, restart the video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you took some time to fill this out and check and see how your inference about their relationship compared to mine. And my inference was that the pirate Long John Silver knows the narrator Jim Hawkins. And the clue that I used to come up with that inference is that Long John Silver says, "So, here's Jim Hawkins, shiver me timbers, dropped in like, eh? Well, come." I take that friendly. So he knows the narrator by name. He knows who it is. And granted, we don't know whether or not he was just introduced, but it seems like it talks to him in a friendly manner. Okay? And when we go back and we talk about how he had been there before, so maybe they had been in the same place before, and that as the pirate knows him. Okay? So, when we talk about inferencing, we talk about everything that the reader is working as well as the author. And that authors do not always tell readers everything, but they leave clues that you can put that you can put together. And we put those clues together and we form inferences, okay? And an inference is based on one or two clues in the text plus your background knowledge. Now, the great thing about an inference is not all of your inferences are correct. Okay? Have you ever been watching a movie or reading something and you expect something to happen and all of a sudden, poof, something completely different happens? That's great. That's fantastic. Because it's not whether or not your inferences are right. Hopefully your inferences are in the right area. But depending upon your background knowledge, your inference might lead you somewhere different. Okay, a lot of times in horror movies or in mystery books and things like that, they give you things that are going to lead you astray, that the author is trying to trick you. And it's up to your brain. Your brain automatically makes those inferences and puts things together. Okay? To make an inference means to figure out something that is not stated directly in a text. Okay? And it's something that we do all the time. It's something, when you watch a movie and you hear certain music, you make an inference of what's going to happen. Or you read certain things, or in television shows, when you watch, you expect something that's going to happen. And your brain automatically does that. But making inferences helps you make sense out of a text and think about what the author is communicating. And the author doesn't have to use all these words to help you understand. Okay? And just in closing, kind of where we started. Inferential thinking is adding up clues within the text with personal knowledge to understand what is not being said. It's filling in those holes and filling in the gaps to help you understand. And good readers know how to make inferences. Okay? We make inferences all the time. And we make inferences when we're reading fiction and nonfiction. We make inferences when we're watching television, watching movies, sometimes even when we're listening to music. Okay? All right, so that's the end of video number 2.